Tell me a little bit about this course, because a lot of people watching this might be surprised to know that this blue book with which they're familiar is not the only version of the course that's existed. So talk me through the history, the timeline of the course, if you will, Robert.
Okay, there is a very interesting and important history behind the publication of the course. In 1965, Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford were colleagues at Columbia University, and she began hearing an inner voice. And the voice began by saying, "This is a Course in Miracles, please take notes." And that meant that she was supposed to be recording what the voice said to her. And so the very first version, you could say, of A Course in Miracles was her handwritten notes. And she would write in this mixture of handwriting and shorthand symbols. And then, after writing those down, she would then dictate by voice those notes to her colleague Bill Thetford, and he would type up what she dictated.
Right, so she wrote into notebooks, sat down with Bill, and he transcribed, typed up.
She would dictate to him what she had written, and he would type it up. And so his typescript, which they called the urtext, which means original manuscript, that becomes, in a sense, the second version.
Right, the first version being the handwritten
her
notes.
handwritten notes. Yeah.
Okay, and what happens then?
So one thing that's important here is that while she's dictating to him, she's not necessarily dictating everything she's taken down, and she's sometimes dictating the wording a little bit differently.
Right.
Okay, so the urtext, the typescript, has differences with her notebooks. Okay, and then at a certain point, she went herself and retyped the entire text of the urtext and edited as she went.
Right.
Okay.
She, without Bill, was Bill involved in that
Apparently
too?
without Bill. We don't have
Okay.
what Ken Wapnick, a later collaborator of hers and Bill's, called this the second draft. And the public hasn't seen this, but Ken's claim was that she typed this and she edited as she went.
Right.
Okay. And then she and Bill took the second draft and they edited that and produced what they called the Hugh Lynn version. And that was named after Hugh Lynn Casey, the son of the psychic Edgar Casey.
Right.
They struck up a connection with Hugh Lynn. Hugh Lynn had been very supportive of her channeling, her scribing, as they called it. And so they edited the second draft into the Hugh Lynn version, which they then sent to Hugh Lynn Casey.
Why did they do the Hugh Lynn Casey version?
It just needed some more editing, in their view. It needed cleaning up. Originally, it came out in certain ways that was kind of rough.
Okay.
And so there was editing needed. There was personal material that needed to be taken out or changed. So they then produced the Hugh Lynn version, which has commonly become known as the Hugh Lynn Casey. And then eventually, Ken Wapnick comes on the scene, another psychologist. He becomes privy to this manuscript.
It's still a manuscript. It's not a published book. It's still
It's not published.
Manuscript.
It was a closely guarded secret. They
Okay.
called it their guilty secret.
Right.
They didn't want it to wreck their careers. And Ken Wapnick suggested that it needed more editing.
Right.
And so Bill, according to Ken, just didn't have the patience to go through another editing process. So Helen and Ken then took the Hugh Lynn Casey version and produced what became the Foundation for Inner Peace, or FIP, first edition.
Okay, and that was the first, the FIP first edition was the first time the course moved from being a manuscript to a published book that people could buy.
But it was published in 76 formally.
76. So take it from there. What then happened to the course? It's now out in the world as a published book. What happened from that point on?
Well, it became a contemporary spiritual classic.
Is this the book that I have in my hand? Are you describing the FIP book there?
Yeah, that's the book that everyone's familiar with.